The night my sister finally told us that she hated our family, nobody took her seriously. We thought she was angry. We thought she was hurt. We thought she simply wanted to leave the village and start a different life. But 3 nights later, something happened inside our house that made every person in my family question what was really happening to her. At around 2 hours in the morning, my mother heard someone walking through the courtyard. Slow footsteps, bare feet against the cold floor. She thought it was my sister. But when she opened the door, my sister was standing beside her bed, fast asleep, and the footsteps were still moving through the courtyard. My mother never told us what she saw next, not until years later, because whatever had been walking outside that night, it wasn't alone. Part 1, The Girl Who Changed. My sister wasn't always like this. When we were younger, she was probably the happiest person in our family. We lived in a small village surrounded by farmland, narrow dirt roads, and old houses that had been standing there for generations. Life was simple. Everyone knew everyone, and everyone knew our family. But as my sister grew older, something changed. She became quieter, then angry. At first, nobody thought much of it. She started arguing with our parents over small things. She stopped eating dinner with us. Sometimes she would sit alone outside for hours, staring toward the fields behind our house. Whenever someone asked what was wrong, she would simply say, "Nothing." But there was something strange about the way she said it. It wasn't sadness. It sounded more like she was hiding something. One evening, my father asked her why she had become so distant. She looked at him for several seconds. Then she said something none of us understood. "You all will regret what you did." My father asked her what she meant. She didn't answer. She just walked away. We assumed she was talking about some old family argument. We were wrong, because that night, for the first time, someone heard knocking coming from the locked back door. Part 2, The Knocking. The back door wasn't used very often. It opened toward a small courtyard that eventually led to the fields. There was no reason for anyone to be there at night, especially because the nearest house was several minutes away on foot. Around midnight, my younger brother heard 3 knocks. Knock, knock, knock. He thought someone was outside, so he woke my father. My father took a flashlight and walked toward the door. Before opening it, he asked, "Who is there?" "Nothing." He waited. Then came 3 more knocks. Knock, knock, knock. My father opened the door. Nobody was there. The courtyard was completely empty. He checked the ground. There were no footprints, no signs that anyone had been standing outside. He closed the door and locked it again. Then as he turned around, he noticed my sister standing at the end of the hallway. She was staring directly at the open doorway. My father asked her why she was awake. She didn't answer. Instead, she whispered, "It knows we're here." My father froze. He asked, "What knows?" My sister looked toward the back door. Then she said, "The thing that comes when someone in this house remembers." Nobody understood what she meant. But the next morning, she acted as if nothing had happened. And that was when my mother began to suspect that my sister knew much more than she was telling us. Part 2, The Knocking. The back door wasn't used very often. It opened toward a small courtyard that eventually led to the fields. There was no reason for anyone to be there at night, especially because the nearest house was several minutes away on foot. Around midnight, my younger brother heard 3 knocks. Knock, knock, knock. He thought someone was outside, so he woke my father. My father took a flashlight and walked toward the door. Before opening it, he asked, "Who is there?" "Nothing." He waited. Then came 3 more knocks. Knock, knock, knock. My father opened the door. Nobody was there. The courtyard was completely empty. He checked the ground. There were no footprints, no signs that anyone had been standing outside. He closed the door and locked it again. Then as he turned around, he noticed my sister standing at the end of the hallway. She was staring directly at the open doorway. My father asked her why she was awake. She didn't answer. Instead, she whispered, "It knows we're here." My father froze. He asked, "What knows?" My sister looked toward the back door. Then she said, "The thing that comes when someone in this house remembers." Nobody understood what she meant. But the next morning, she acted as if nothing had happened. And that was when my mother began to suspect that my sister knew much more than she was telling us. Part 3, The Secret in the Village. The following afternoon, my mother quietly asked one of our elderly neighbors about the strange things happening around our house. At first, the old man refused to speak. He simply told her Don't ask questions about that house after sunset." My mother laughed nervously. She thought he was trying to scare her, but then he mentioned something that made her stop smiling. He said our house had not always belonged to our family. Decades earlier, another family had lived there, and according to the old man's story, something terrible had happened to them. Nobody in the village liked talking about it, but there was one detail everyone remembered. The youngest daughter of that family had spent her final days accusing her own relatives of betraying her. She reportedly kept repeating the same sentence before she disappeared. "They will hear me again." My mother asked what happened to the girl. The old man looked toward our house. Then he quietly said, "She was never found." That evening, my mother returned home terrified, but she didn't tell us everything, because when she entered the house, she found my sister sitting alone in the dark, and on the floor beside her was an old photograph, a photograph none of us had ever seen before. My sister looked up at my mother and asked, "Did he tell you about her?" My mother couldn't speak, because my sister had never met that old man, and yet she knew exactly what he had said. Part 4. The photograph. My mother stared at the photograph in my sister's hands. It was old, the edges were damaged, and the picture had turned yellow with age. There were 4 people standing outside our house, but something immediately felt wrong. The house in the photograph looked exactly like ours. Same walls, same courtyard. Even the old tree beside the entrance was still there. My mother asked my sister where she had found it. My sister didn't answer. She simply turned the photograph over. There was writing on the back, only one sentence. She never left. My mother immediately told her to give it to her, but my sister pulled it away. Then she whispered, "You shouldn't have built this house over hers." My mother froze. Our family had never built the house. It had been there long before any of us were born. My father came into the room and demanded to know what was happening. For several seconds, my sister said nothing. Then she finally told us something that changed everything. She had been hearing a woman's voice for months. At first, it only whispered her name. Then it started talking about our family. It told her things nobody outside the family could have known. Private conversations, old arguments, things that had happened when my sister was still a child. And according to her, the voice didn't hate her, it hated us. Part 5. The warning. That night, my father decided that enough was enough. He told my sister to stop talking about ghosts and old village stories. He blamed stress. He blamed loneliness. He even suggested that someone had been playing a cruel prank on her. My sister listened quietly. Then she looked directly at him. "Don't sleep in your room tonight." My father laughed. He asked why. She answered, "Because she told me you're next." Nobody spoke. My father became angry. He told my sister that if she continued frightening the family, she would have to leave the house. My sister didn't argue. She simply walked toward her room. Before closing the door, she turned around and said something I'll never forget. I tried to stop her. That night, my father refused to believe any of it. He went to bed in his usual room. Around 2:17 in the morning, my mother woke up. She heard something dragging across the floor, slowly, from the hallway. She woke my father. He opened the bedroom door. The hallway was empty, but the sound continued. Then they heard my sister screaming. They ran toward her room. Her door was locked. My father broke it open. My sister was sitting on the floor. Her eyes were wide with terror, and behind her, on the wall, were 4 long scratches, fresh scratches. But the worst part was that the voice didn't stop. It began calling different family members. Sometimes it sounded like my mother, sometimes my father. Once it even sounded like my younger brother. But every time someone went looking, the voice disappeared. Then one night, my sister vanished. Her room was empty. The window was open. Her shoes were still beside the bed. My father searched the entire house. Nothing. Then he noticed muddy footprints leading from her room toward the fields. We followed them. The trail continued for several hundred meters, then suddenly stopped. There was no road, no wall, no river, nothing that could explain where the footprints went. But my sister was standing ahead of us, completely still, facing away. My father called her name. She didn't move. He called again. Slowly, she turned around. Her face looked completely different. Not angry, not afraid, almost emotionless. Then she smiled and said, "You shouldn't have followed me." My father asked what she meant. My sister pointed toward the darkness behind us and whispered, "She followed you." When we turned around, there was someone standing between the trees, a woman, wearing an old dress, watching our family, and she looked exactly like the girl in the photograph. Nobody moved. The woman stood between the trees, completely still. My father grabbed my sister's arm and told everyone to run. We didn't ask questions. We didn't look back. We just ran toward the house. But halfway there, my sister stopped. She was staring behind us. My father shouted at her to keep moving. She shook her head. Then she said something that none of us understood. "She doesn't want me." My father asked what she meant. My sister looked at our family. "She wants all of you." We reached the house and locked every door. For several minutes, nothing happened. Then came the knocking. 3 slow knocks from the back door. Nobody answered. 3 more. Then the voice of my mother came from outside. "Open the door." My mother was standing beside us. We all knew she hadn't spoken. The voice came again. This time it sounded like my father. "Open the door." Then my sister whispered, "Don't listen." Suddenly the knocking stopped. Silence filled the house. And then we heard footsteps walking across the roof, slowly. 1 step at a time. They stopped directly above my sister's room. The ceiling creaked. Something moved across it. Then everything went silent. When we finally checked my sister's room, she was gone. The window was still locked. The door had never opened. She had simply disappeared. What happened afterward? We left the village before sunrise. My father never sold the house. He never returned for the belongings either. For years, nobody in our family talked about that night. My sister was eventually found several days later, miles away from the village. She remembered almost nothing, except one thing. She kept saying that the woman in the old photograph had been standing beside her, not attacking her, not hurting her, just waiting. My family eventually moved away, but my mother kept the old photograph. She said she wanted to destroy it. She never did, because every time she tried, something happened. The first time, she heard knocking. The second time, she found the photograph back inside the house. And the third time, she saw a new figure standing in the picture. It was my sister, but the photograph was decades old. Final thought, even today my family still doesn't agree about what happened. Some believe my sister was suffering from something none of us understood. Some believe the old village story was nothing more than a legend. And some of us believe the house really was hiding something. But there's one detail I can never explain. The old photograph was taken decades before my sister was born. Yet somehow, she was standing in it. And if that story is true, then maybe my sister's resentment was never the beginning of what happened. Maybe it was the warning. Because sometimes, the person you think is losing their mind is actually the only person who can see what's coming. If you enjoyed this story, subscribe to The Hidden Fear archive for more true horror stories and unexplained mysteries. And remember, if you ever hear someone you love calling your name from the darkness, make sure they're actually standing beside you before you answer.